People whispered that time heals everything, but Mariana knew some wounds didn't fade, they simply learned how to hide. And on the morning she found the emerald green gala invitation lying on her doorstep, she felt a familiar shiver run through her, the kind that comes when life shifts without warning. She hadn't been seen in public for nearly 4 years. Not since the night she walked away from the world that praised her, photographed her, and quietly judged her. But now, as she held the envelope between trembling fingers, she understood something deeper. This wasn't an invitation. It was a test. A reminder. A challenge life had placed at her feet. And she was no longer the woman who stepped aside so others could shine. She was a mother now, stronger, steadier, and no longer willing to disappear. Her little boy Luca tugged at her sleeve. "Mama, who sent that?" he asked, eyes wide with innocent curiosity. Mariana forced a smile, brushing a curl from his forehead. "Someone who thinks Mama isn't brave enough to show up," she said softly. But inside, determination was already blooming like a fire she couldn't put out. Returning to that gala meant facing the past she had tried so hard to outrun. The broken promises, the unanswered questions, the people who believed she would never rise again. Yet something inside her whispered that the time had finally come to reclaim her place, not as the woman who left, but as the woman who survived. And when she stepped into that dazzling ballroom, holding her son's hand, nothing and no one would ever see her the same way again. The decision to attend the gala settled into Mariana's mind like a stone dropped into calm water, sending ripples through every corner of her life. She hadn't stepped into high society since her disappearance, and the world she once navigated with elegance now felt distant, almost unreal. But as the hours passed, something inside her kept whispering that returning wasn't just about confronting others, it was about reclaiming the version of herself she had abandoned. Luca played on the living room floor, humming to himself, unaware that his mother's world was shifting. Sometimes Mariana wondered if she would have found the strength to keep going without him. His quiet presence had saved her in ways no one else ever could. That afternoon she opened a box she hadn't touched in years. Inside lay memories she'd hidden, the dress sketches she once dreamed of wearing, photos from nights filled with music and laughter, and a silver bracelet engraved with initials that no longer felt like part of her story. She held it for a moment before setting it aside gently, realizing she no longer needed reminders of who she used to be. She was building someone new. Someone steadier. Someone fearless. And as she watched Luca draw suns and stars on a piece of paper, she knew that her return was no longer a choice. It had become her promise, to herself, and to the little boy who believed she could do anything. 4 days, Mariana had felt a quiet restlessness growing inside her, but the moment she walked into the boutique to choose a gown, that restlessness turned into a pulse of nerves she couldn't ignore. The stylist, a warm-voiced woman with thoughtful eyes, sensed it immediately. "Big night?" she asked gently. Mariana hesitated, unsure how to explain a story she'd spent years keeping silent. Instead, she simply murmured, "A return long overdue." The stylist didn't pry, she only guided Mariana toward fabrics that flowed like whispers and colors that brought warmth to her skin. As Mariana studied herself in the mirror, wrapped in shimmering silk, she barely recognized the woman staring back. Not because she looked different but because she finally looked like someone rediscovering her own strength. Luca sat nearby, swinging his small feet as he watched her with fascination. "Mama, you look like a hero," he said proudly, and the simple words made her throat tighten. If he believed in her, then she had no excuse to doubt herself. When she stepped out of the boutique holding the garment bag, a cool breeze brushed against her face, almost as if the world itself was urging her forward. The gala was only 2 days away, and every step she took seemed to echo with a quiet truth she could no longer run from. She wasn't returning to impress anyone. She was returning to remind herself that she had never been defeated. The night before the gala carried an unexpected stillness, the kind that arrives just before life reveals a turning point. Mariana stood by the window, watching the city lights shimmer like distant promises. She had faced many quiet nights since leaving her old world, but this one felt different, charged, almost alive, as if the horizon itself was waiting for her next move. A soft rustle behind her made her turn. Luca, half asleep and clutching his favorite stuffed bear, wandered toward her. "Mama, will people be kind to you tomorrow?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. The question struck deeper than he could ever understand. She knelt beside him, smoothing his hair. "Kindness doesn't always come easily," she said gently, "but courage does." And as she said it, she realized the words weren't only for him, they were for herself. After he returned to bed, she walked to her desk and opened a journal she hadn't touched in years. The pages held fragments of dreams she once believed she'd lost forever. But tonight, instead of grief, she felt something quietly rebuilding: her identity, her purpose, her voice. When she finally turned off the light, the dress hung in her room like a symbol of everything she had endured and everything she was about to reclaim. Tomorrow she would face the crowd that once watched her fall. And for the first time in years she felt ready, not to prove anything but simply to rise. Morning arrived with a glow that felt almost symbolic, as if the universe itself had decided to cast a gentle blessing over the day. Mariana woke before the alarm, her thoughts steady but alive with a quiet anticipation she hadn't felt in years. As she prepared breakfast, Luca sat at the table drawing a picture of them holding hands under a sky filled with stars. "This is for you," he said proudly, handing her the page. The simple image struck her more deeply than any grand gesture ever could. In that drawing she wasn't someone forgotten or judged, she was someone loved. Throughout the day time seemed to move with intention. Every task, every moment, felt like a step toward the life she had been too afraid to reclaim. People from her past had whispered rumors about her disappearance. Some said she left because she was weak. Others believed she had no place in their glittering world. But none of them knew the truth, that walking away had been the bravest choice she had ever made. By afternoon, she stood before the mirror again, adjusting the gown that hugged her like confidence finally returning home. Her heart beat faster, not from fear, but from a realization she had long avoided. This wasn't just a comeback. It was a beginning. Luca slipped his small hand into hers, smiling up at her with unwavering trust. And in that moment she knew she wasn't stepping into the gala alone. She was stepping in with strength she had built, healed, and protected piece by piece. The instant Mariana stepped through the grand doors of the gala, a hush rippled across the room, as if every voice had been pulled into the same breath. Chandeliers glittered above her, but it was the sea of startled faces below that truly illuminated the moment. People who once dismissed her now stared with a mixture of disbelief and awe. Some whispered her name, others tried to pretend they hadn't noticed, but the truth was undeniable. Her return had shifted the entire atmosphere. Mariana felt Luca's hand tighten around hers. "Mama, are we okay?" he asked softly. She smiled, steady and warm. "We're more than okay." As they walked deeper into the ballroom, the world that once made her feel small now felt strangely distant, almost insignificant. She wasn't here to seek approval or acceptance. She was here to take back the space she once abandoned. A familiar figure appeared in the crowd, someone who had once overshadowed her with loud opinions and quiet doubts. Instead of shrinking back, Mariana met their gaze with calm strength. No anger, no fear, just truth. And the truth was simple: she had risen. The music swelled, the lights shimmered, and for the first time in a long time, she felt completely present in her own story. People approached her with hesitant smiles, offering gentle words she never expected to hear again. Yet what mattered most wasn't their reaction. It was the way Luca looked up at her with pride, as if he knew she had just crossed the most important bridge of her life. In that moment, Mariana understood something profound. Her comeback wasn't about the past. It was about proving to herself that she had never truly been forgotten, only preparing to shine again.